Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Harris County Vision Zero public launch. My name is Isabel Longoria, and I'm going to be walking us through the agenda today, helping moderate things, and then also covering the community portion. But throughout the evening, you'll see all of us here with these fancy QR codes. If you click and hold your phone up to those at any given time, you can find the Vision Zero survey. We'd love for you to take that yourself, practice taking it yourself, and then share that with the community as well on your social media. It'll make a little more sense later what that survey is about, but if you want to get ahead, that's the way to do it. So first off, we've got some excellent speakers who are going to really talk about the importance of transportation and Vision Zero and what that means here in Harris County. And we're going to start off with Commissioner Ellis from Precinct 1, who's been a powerhouse when it comes to transportation and safety and what it means for equity in transportation as well. So Commissioner Ellis, if you wouldn't mind starting us off with a couple of words here.
Isabel, thank you. And I'm glad to be with you. I'm glad that you all are doing this. I want to thank you and all of the folks for spending time with us this afternoon to learn more about Vision Zero and how this plan strives to eliminate all traffic deaths and severe injuries among all road users by 2030. That's an ambitious goal. In October of 2019, the Harris County Commissioners Court, at a request that my staff and I worked up, approved creating the Vision Zero Working Group, which will develop, implement, and maintain the Harris County Vision Zero Action Plan. John Blunt, who you're going to hear from, is really the guru who put it together. After almost a complete year planning and development, the engineering department, which was leading this effort, publicly launched a well thought out, data-driven plan, which you're going to hear a bit more about tonight. This Vision Zero strategy takes bicyclists, everybody knows I'm a passionate bicyclist even at this age, and pedestrians, as well as motorists into account when designing roadways, as well as identifying, making improvements to the county's most dangerous intersections. And by doing this, Harris County will design a more equitable, safer environment for all mobility options. Harris County is not the only local government that's implementing these strategies. Obviously, the city of Houston began the process in 2019. Other local governments are working on the same plan. Some of the governments that I've read about, what prompted me to do this was I saw they were doing it in Portland. I think that's Multnomah County, Oregon, New York City, LA County, just to name a few. On our part, with commitments from almost 30 departments and partner organizations, your county, Harris County, will design shared roadways that all can use safely. Harris County will make it work for everybody, regardless of their mode of transportation. So again, I want to thank you. I will be riding my bike tomorrow and all weekend. And I look forward to 2030 when I won't have to worry as much as I do now and take all these pills to help with my blood pressure when I'm out on Houston and Harris County Street. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not going to stay on because I have to get on another Zoom call, but thank you for doing this so very much.
And thank you for your support, Commissioner Ellis. I think it's fantastic to have the support of our leadership and someone like you who's been doing this so long. And thank you again for framing that this isn't just us, it's a national effort for us as a country and as our community here in Harris County. And we'll hear about the City of Houston tie-in later to bring our deaths down to 0 in 10 years. And it's an ambitious goal, but we don't get places without having ambitious goals. So thank you, Commissioner Ellis. And next up, we have James Blunt, who's our county engineer. He's really been leading the effort, he and his team, on the technical aspects of this. And as illustrated before, right, you need the technical and the community. So Mr. Blunt, John, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a few words on what Vision Zero means for the county and why the County Engineering Department is excited to push this forward.
Well, first of all, thank you, Isabel. And first, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this exciting path towards safer streets and a safer you. This really is fundamentally a different approach to traffic engineering and how we think about things. Vision Zero was originally started in Sweden, who's well known for their traffic safety focuses. In fact, I looked up today because I didn't know the statistics, but we have 456% more traffic fatalities per 100,000 people than does Sweden. So that tells you they figured things out. And this is a fundamentally different approach. Traditional approaches to traffic engineering simply look at collisions. Vision Zero doesn't look at collisions, it looks at serious injuries and fatalities because they're not necessarily the same thing. The current traffic engineering approach assumes perfect human behavior. For example, everybody will stop at a red light. Everybody will yield at a yield sign. The Vision Zero path we're moving forward knows that human behavior has failures and we design for it. You know, a classic discussion is what we call roundabout versus traffic signals. And I know for years everybody said, "Oh, those roundabouts are dangerous. I might hit my neighbor going around." But if you look at the safety standards of roundabouts, which are very prominent in Europe, you'll see that they have a much safer system than traditional traffic signals because you don't have head-on collisions or you don't have T-bone collisions. So Vision Zero is exciting, it's different, it's multidisciplined. You actually have public health professionals involved, surprisingly enough. You have all sorts of people involved, and you actually have the community involved, which is not a traditional traffic engineering approach. So I just want to say we're very excited about this, and although I'm not the avid bicyclist that Commissioner Ellis is, I do 3 or 4 miles a day out on the roads with me and the dog or me by myself. So I am very interested in this initiative. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, John. And hey, 3 or 4 miles is better than 0, so we'll take it. And I just want to thank John, and I really like how you framed that from the start. This isn't just about saying, well, we're going to put a couple more stop signs up and hope for the best. This is both thinking innovatively about how we design our roads and our streets to be safer with both those hard structures and those social structures. And on top of that, the community commitment that we all want to get to 0 deaths and 0 severe injuries here in Harris County together. So I'm going to take us back after that start to the beginning. If you are looking for this presentation in Spanish, we are actually offering live translations right now. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the interpretation button. Y para ellos que hablan español también, si pasas aquí al abajo, puedes ver donde tenemos unas translaciones también. So again, if you need this information in English and Spanish, there's a commitment that we'll provide all of this Vision Zero information to make sure that everyone in the community can access this together. If you're having some issue with your audio where you're hearing both the English and Spanish translations, make sure to go down there to the bottom again and click mute original audio, and that'll help probably with some of your audio issues. If you've got any questions or concerns, go ahead and put them in to our Q&A feature. So you can do that in chat or Q&A. And as you have questions throughout the presentations from maybe our technical team or here on the community team, again, put it in Q&A. We've already got one queued up. So we're working on that, a little fix with the survey. And again, if you're looking for that survey, it's right here on the QR code. We did get a little edit that we'll be doing there for a second. So thank you, Eleni Papas, for that. And if you think of something later, if you're like me, where you're sleeping late at night and you think, wish I had brought that up, right here, we've got the Harris Vision Zero at ENG, which stands for engineering.hctx.net. Feel free to email us questions day or night there. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. But the idea is you shouldn't feel rushed today. We want this to be the start of a conversation. So with that, I'm going to transfer or transition over to our engineering department. So this again is the county engineering is leading the effort on the technical side of this, along with our friends over at Gradient. And they're going to take us through the high impact network, the maps we've created, and some of the kind of engineering and hard data we're using to inform how we're going to move forward with Vision Zero. So with that, I'll pass it over to Brandon and T. Wayne and Dina.
Thank you, Isabel. I would like to again extend a warm welcome to all the attendees here today at the Vision Zero public meeting. My name is Brandon Hicks, and I'm one of the team leaders representing Harris County Engineering Department for Vision Zero. Also, as we alluded to earlier, with us today is T. Wayne Holcomb and Dina Snyder from our consultant team, Gradient. Gradient has been a key participant in the technical development of Harris County Vision Zero initiative to eliminate all fatalities and all serious injuries for all users on all county roadways by the year 2030.
Hey, Brandon, you're muted, so real quick.
Was I muted? Oh, sorry. Do I need to start back over?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so as part of this initiative for Harris County, we established a steering committee with representatives from many diverse groups and stakeholders. Further, we created 2 additional subcommittees, which made up the technical task force and the communication task force. Further, we collaborated with the City of Houston to establish a common accident history data for all of Harris County, which T. Wayne and Dina will go into, which led to our development of our high injury network map. And now I will turn over this presentation to T. Wayne and Dina to provide additional information about the technical background for Harris County Vision Zero initiative.
Thank you, Brandon. My name is T. Wayne Holcomb, and I'm with Gradient Group. It's a woman-owned civil engineering firm headquartered in Houston that specializes in transportation safety. And we are honored that the Harris County Engineering Department has asked us to assist them with the technical aspects of Vision Zero. But before we get started, I'd like you to think a little bit about commercial air travel, if you will. It's one of the safest forms of travel in the US. And every time there is a commercial airline crash or plane crash, the immediate thing you hear people talking about is, we need to get the black box and we need to determine why this crash occurred. It's from this data in the black box that we look for to look at determining how to prevent future crashes. It's this data-driven approach that almost immediately leads to new safety policies and procedures in air travel, because the death of some 300 people is just not acceptable. Well, did you know that last year over 39,000 people were killed on the roadway system in the United States? That's 130 commercial airline crashes. And that's not even to mention the 4.5 million people that are seriously injured. But let's look at it from the Harris County perspective. 350 people were killed last year in Harris County roadway systems. So that is why the Harris County Commissioners Court has decided this has to change, because any loss of life is unacceptable. Harris County has developed a goal to eliminate all traffic deaths by the year 2030. That's impressive, but it's doable. As we've mentioned, Vision Zero is a multinational approach to traffic safety that was formed in Sweden to eliminate and look at all modes of traffic. Now imagine, if you will, a future where there is no roadway deaths. Any loss of life is unacceptable. And the responsibility of this traffic safety is both with the roadway designers and the users themselves. So mistakes should not be punishable by death. As with the auto industry has focused on making vehicles safer, we must too make our roadway system safer. Wait, why are we not changing slides? There we go. Back up one. All right, there we go. While roadway designers have a bunch of the responsibility, it doesn't lie completely with the roadway designers. Users of roadway systems have to get serious and do their part as well, following and obeying laws and regulations that govern our roadway system. Some of you may remember several years ago the Don't Mess with Texas campaign to change the way Texans viewed littering, or the TxDOT Click It and Ticket program to help drivers remember to buckle their seatbelt. Well, Vision Zero has the same concept. It's to change the way we view safety on our roadway systems and change the current lackadaisical mindset of both the designer and the user. Changing our current mindset is going to be tough, and it's going to need everyone's help. And that is why the Harris County has developed this large stakeholder steering committee, which includes, like Brandon said, transportation design professionals, elected officials, public health officials, law enforcement officers, teachers, and most importantly, you all, the citizens of Harris County. That's a lot of folks to get together. But to accomplish our goal in eliminating deaths on Harris County roadways by the year 2030, it's going to take everybody. And like with that plane crash that I mentioned earlier, we have to start by looking at the data. And by data, I mean the crash data. This is not a plan that's driven by politics or power or money. It's driven by data. We don't have a black box per se to look at, but we know where the crashes have occurred and why they've occurred over Harris County in the last 5 years based on police crash records. And it's Gradient's responsibility to help analyze and study this data and determine where we need to develop action plans of new policies and design procedures to make Harris County roadways safer, to eliminate all traffic deaths in 10 years. From these action plans, we will establish an implementation plan on how these new policies and design procedures will be put into place, who will be responsible for them, and when they will be implemented. Like Commissioner Ellis said, some 40 cities across the United States have already developed Vision Zero plans, including 3 in Texas, Austin, San Antonio, and Laredo. Harris County is the first county in the US to develop a Vision Zero plan, and they are doing it simultaneously with the city of Houston. This is groundbreaking. The county and the city are working hand in hand with the same crash data to develop Vision Zero plans for the city and the unincorporated components of Harris County that are complementary and aligned with one another. This is groundbreaking. This is a timeline. Yeah, there we go. This is a little timeline to show that we started working with the city back in April to develop this high injury network and to analyze the crash data. Once we've analyzed all this data, we will start developing these action plans that I mentioned. And by the end of next month, we will start developing the implementation plan. From there, we will get into the high injury network of things. But now I'd like to turn things over to my counterpart, Dina Snyder, who will walk you through this high injury network and explain to you what it means and what the crash data is telling us so far. Dina?
Yes. Thank you, T. Wayne. Developing a high injury network is an important first step in our Vision Zero initiative because it helps us know where fatal and severe injury crashes are occurring. This basically allows us to be able to prioritize where improvement strategies will have the biggest impact. High injury networks are typically a subset of the overall road network and account for the majority of fatal and severe injury crashes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a particular street is dangerous, but it does show us where injuries are most concentrated. As T. Wayne mentioned, the City of Houston is also working on a Vision Zero initiative. We work closely with their data team so that we can have a common high injury network for the region. So there's 3 primary components. Let me go back to the next slide. The first is the crash data. Second is mapping the crash data to a roadway network. And then finally, setting thresholds to define which streets to include in the high injury network. So we used a 5-year data set from TxDOT's Crash Records Information System for the basis of our analysis. And we looked at the years 2014 through 2018. Our data set only includes those crashes that resulted in a fatality or serious injury. And we focused on vehicular crashes and also crashes that involved people walking and biking. The next step, The next step was to map the crash data to our roadway network. And we used the Houston-Galveston Area Council's STAR map, which stands for the Southeast Texas Addressing and Referencing Map. Because our Vision Zero initiative focuses on actions the county can take to improve safety, The high injury network only includes surface streets and frontage roads that fall under local agency jurisdiction. We split the roadway network into half-mile segments and then applied a buffer distance to assign these crashes to these segments. And then the final step was to determine which roads to include in our high injury network. We calculated the total number of fatal and severe injury crashes for each segment, and then we divided by the segment length basically to obtain a crash rate for each segment. What we found was that looking across all crashes, we found that 60% of crashes occur on just 6% of our roadway network. So this is about a crash rate of 3.5 total crashes per mile. But what we also did is we calculated crash rates by mode. And so our resulting high injury network is a composite map that basically shows the top crash segments for driving, bicycling, and walking. So next we'll show you the high injury network for each of those modes. This map shows the highest crash segments for people driving. This equates to about 2.5 vehicular crashes per mile. The individual segments are shown as red lines, and again, we're focusing only on surface streets and not freeways or toll roads. As T. Wayne mentioned, we want our Vision Zero action plan to be data-driven. So we dug a little deeper into some of the factors associated with each mode. So that basically that allows us to target some specific actions to eliminate these types of crashes. We're looking first at vehicular crashes involving a single vehicle. These crashes made up about 22% of all fatal or serious injury crashes. The most common type of crash was where a driver hit a fixed object or they overturned. Looking at behavior or risk factors, not wearing a seatbelt and speeding were the biggest contributing factors that resulted in, a more serious injury. Moving to this next slide, we see that there's a larger percentage of crashes that involve 2 or more vehicles, and that made up nearly 60% of our data set. The most common type of crash was right angle crashes at intersections, as well as rear end crashes that occurred at mid-block locations. In terms of behavior, speeding topped the list as the biggest contributing factor. This map shows the highest crash segments for people biking. This equates to 2 crashes per mile, 2 bicycle crashes per mile, and the individual segments are shown as brown lines. You can see there were quite a few segments that popped up in downtown and midtown, as well as Southwest and South Houston, a few segments up north, and then also in outlying areas of the county. Looking now at the factors involved in bicycle crashes, these crashes made up a smaller subset of our data, about 3% of our entire data set. The most common type of crash was where a vehicle was going straight and they struck a cyclist, both at mid-block locations and then also at intersections. Vehicles turning left or right and then striking a cyclist made up a smaller percentage. Poor lighting was the biggest contributing factor, followed by bicyclist failure to yield right-of-way to the vehicle. This map shows our highest crash segments for people walking, which equates to 2 pedestrian crashes per mile. The individual segments are shown as teal lines on this map. And as you can see, there's a high concentration of pedestrian crashes in downtown Houston. There's also portions of our roadway network in Southwest, South, and then also North Houston that also had higher rates of pedestrian crashes. You can see that crashes involving people walking made up a higher percentage of our data set. This is kind of reflective of the fact that, when you think about it for any given trip, whether you're walking to catch a bus or you're simply parking your car and then walking into work or a grocery store, we're all pedestrians at some point in our day. The most common type of crash was where a vehicle was going straight and hit a pedestrian at a mid-block location, and also a vehicle going straight and hitting a pedestrian at intersections. The biggest risk factor here was, surprisingly, it was pedestrians who failed to yield right-of-way to a vehicle. Digging into these crashes a little bit further, we found about a third of them involved pedestrians who were either intoxicated or they were using their cell phone. Poor lighting was also a big factor, and we found that many of these crashes were occurring either at dawn or dusk, or at unlit locations at night, where it's a little bit harder to see pedestrians, especially with glare and, headlights and that sort of thing. So putting the three modes together, this is our composite map that shows the top crash segments for driving, biking, and walking. I went through these maps rather quickly, but you'll be able to view the high injury network in more detail on our Vision Zero map tool, which Isabel will tell you a little bit more about later in the presentation. I'll now turn it back over to T. Wayne to tell you a bit more about our Vision Zero action plan.
Thanks, Dina. As you can see, we have a lot of data and we found a lot of interesting things. We know where the crashes are, we know why they're occurring, and now what are we going to do about it? So what is our next steps? Well, as I mentioned earlier, our next step is to take this data and to develop action plans of new policies and engineering design procedures around 6 strategy focuses that we have. The first one of these is education. And that is, how are we going to educate the roadway users to think and act safer? The next area that we're going to look at is engineering. How are we going to design the roadway system safer to provide a transportation system that's built and designed safe to take into account all safety factors? We also have to look at enforcement. What measures need to be put in place to make sure that everyone is following the laws and the regulations to make these roadways safer? We're also going to focus on encouragement. How are we going to get people to buy into this program, not only to think, but also to act safer when they're on the roadway system? We're also going to have to do some evaluation. We're going to have to step back and take a look at the changes that we've made and see if they are effectively working and saving lives. And we're also going to do this in an equitable fashion. Are we providing changes for all users, irrespective of where they live and which mode of travel they are using? And are we including historically underserved communities? Because we want to develop a program that is inclusive to everyone traveling in Harris County and through Harris County, no matter where they come from. But you know what? We've looked at a lot of data, and we've realized over the years in engineering practice that we can't just look at data. We also need to understand the social aspects of what's going on with this data. So before we can start developing these action plans, we're going to need a little help, and we're going to need input from you. We need to hear from you. So Isabel, I'd like to turn it back over to you to help get input from the general public and the citizens of Harris County.
I appreciate that. Thank you, T. Wayne and team. And like we said, they've done an excellent job of taking the data sources available to us and talking about, hey, even drinking and walking, right? That plays into it as much as cars speeding along the way. And you might have thought, hey, some of these numbers look a little small. You know, we've got X number of, almost 5 million people in Harris County. What does it matter if it's only 100? Well, quite frankly, Vision Zero believes that all lives matter, right? Our Black, our Hispanic, our Asian, our communities all around, the suburbs, the inner loops, everyone. And so it doesn't matter, right? If you think that number is small, the fact is we shouldn't want anyone to die on any of our Harris County roads or streets or get severely injured, whether they're walking, biking, in a car, or even using public transportation. So that's where we really need your input. Transportation equity matters, as T. Wayne shared. So if you'll go ahead and take this barcode scan, right? If you do the QR code, it'll take you to that survey. And Eleni Papas, thank you for flagging that question number 3. We've got it resolved, so you should be able to check all on one of the questions. And we're gonna move forward with some of our action steps here. Because primarily this is your Vision Zero plan. Next. Great. So we've compiled a community group together that is stakeholders who really are experts in transportation, in community development, and how to make this all work together. And again, what we've been talking about all day, Vision Zero is an initiative fueled by feedback from you, from all of our communities, to make sure that it is an equitable plan. One thing that always sticks out to me, right, is a lot of this data is from crash reports. When people call in, or the police happen across a major injury, or if there's a death, right, people usually call it in. But there are other parts of our community, perhaps where individuals don't feel safe calling the police, like individuals who are Black, or perhaps they have a mixed immigration status. They may not be calling in as many crashes or data. Therefore, we don't know in some neighborhoods. You've also got to layer on, I know Kinder Institute did an excellent study a couple of years back that said that some of our neighborhoods don't have as many street lamps as other neighborhoods. And when we look at the data that says, hey, some of these car crashes actually happen at dawn or at dusk, where there's unlit roads or low lit roads, those are the things that we have to look at together. How is all of this playing in together? And the fact is, we need the community support to make sure that the data we have is actually reflective of what's going on in Harris County. So how does this help you? How can you help us? The number one thing is right now in the Q&A, please, please, please let us know. Are there questions that you had from the technical aspect of the presentation? Maybe someplace where you thought the data doesn't really match up with what I've seen? Or right now, if you want to report in the Q&A, hey, have you made sure to look at this neighborhood? Have you made sure to look at Southeast Houston, further out to Pasadena, all the way out to A-Leaf? Let us know down to the street. Here's my house, and I know behind me, people are always crashing into my fence. Those are helpful things to know. There's no detail too big or too small. And if you're on this presentation, you're probably excited about Vision Zero. You're probably going to be on the forefront. And so what we would love from you is to scan this QR code to take the pledge. This commits you to being part of the Vision Zero initiative. You'll get, updates on everything we're doing as well. And furthermore, it gives you a platform to share this with others in your neighborhood. Perhaps you're part of a civic club or church that does this work in the community. It would be excellent to get their pledge as well as a community group to say, we together stand against, right, any fatalities or serious injuries in Harris County related to transportation. And to be clear, we don't like any, but this initiative, Vision Zero, is about transportation specifically. And the next one that you all have been doing all along today, hopefully, is taking that survey. So I'm going to pause there for a second, see if there's any questions. Have people reported any intersections so far? Anything from the survey? Who's ready to pledge with me? Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Some good stuff here. All right. So one of our next steps, along with taking the survey and the pledge, right, is, and this is what the survey and the mapping tool look like, is really, again, getting very specific. It's not just, hey, I'm on 45 and I always see a wreck. That's important, but trust me, we know about the ones on 45. Again, tell us about your neighborhood. Tell us about the neighborhood around your church or your grocery stores, or maybe just a place you happened upon while riding your bike once. It's important for us to get as detailed as possible. And even more so, there's a handful of people on this call relative to all of Harris County. So we need you all to share this on your social media as well. Please, please, please share this survey. And if you can, tag it with Vision Zero Harris so that we can all follow along with your conversation. And that others know that this isn't just one tool or one map that's going to go away in a couple of minutes or a couple of days when everyone forgets about this. This is truly a community mapping tool so that we can make Harris County safer for everyone. So again, you'll go ahead and visit www.eng.harris, I believe that was harrisvisionzero.com. And we can go back and share those websites at the end, but this is what you get when you come to the website. You'll be seeing everything we're doing, notes from the meetings like this one, upcoming Zooms, which we'll cover here in a second, the links, right, to the survey, to the pledges. This is the landing page for everything that's going on. So if you can share this with your communities again, we can get more people involved in Vision Zero, as this initiative is going to last several years. So with that, the list of upcoming events, you're already at the first one, the launch. So thank you all for coming to that. And then the next meetings are going to be the Harris County Transportation Planning. That's a big one, where multiple organizations come together and talk about what's going on in Harris County and how different entities can feed together. We would love for people in the public, right, to be there on October 7th, talking about Vision Zero as well. And this is critical. The county can talk about it. Our Harris County Engineering Department, Grady and Holloway, all of our partners are going to be engaged in talking about this. But if you as citizens or you as organizations help amplify that message, it will trickle up to the leadership faster and to the rest of the community that Vision Zero, so that 0 fatalities or serious injuries in Harris County due to transportation, right? That is the goal. And the next one is the multimodal thoroughfare plan, Tuesday, November 17th, and the equity and transportation plan on December 8th. This can feel like a lot of plans right now. This can feel like a lot of, I've heard this before, we're gonna have a meeting and then it's gonna disappear. But we also know if we don't get Vision Zero, if we don't start talking about it now, if we don't start including this in the plans that are talking about 5, 10, or 20 years from now, then 5, 10, or 20 years from now, we're gonna get the notice that says, where were you 5, 10, or 20 years ago when we were talking and planning? So that's where we are right now. We've got to get that map set. We've got to get those plans ready, and we've got to get everyone in the community talking about this so that as we move forward to the next step of actually getting the concrete, making those intersection changes, asking for more street lights, making sure that people are thinking and getting into a mentality of slowing down and being safer on the roads, this is where it starts, with planning that is equitable from the beginning, not trying to chase everyone later when this stuff is happening. So to recap, I know that can sound like a lot, but it's taking the pledge for Vision Zero for yourself, taking that survey and making sure others in your neighborhood are taking those surveys, showing up to meetings. If you can't do it, can you get a buddy to show up for you so that we're holding all of our elected officials and all of our local entities accountable to make sure that we're doing these changes together. And then quite frankly, talk about it wherever you can and be safe on the roads yourself. So that's a lot to take in, but we're really excited here to push for Vision Zero. Again, if there's any Q&A, if there's any questions, you can ask now. Oh, we've got one. Looks like we had a question from someone asking, sidewalks were covered in this discussion. Does this look into the COH, City of Houston stop letting the new development of empty lots not put in sidewalks in existing subdivisions? So excellent question. So I think I'm going to recap and we're going to send this over to Brandon on our technical team to answer. Basically, if we're talking about sidewalks, how are we going to make sure that our planning departments at the city, county, or other levels are actually going to prioritize sidewalks in future developments?
Thank you, Isabel. When we strive to work together with the City of Houston, we'll collect that answer or that question, and we'll work with Lauren at the City of Houston to try to work with their planning staff to see if we can come up with a solution to address your concerns. Again, like I said, it's within the City of Houston, so we have to work with our partner agencies to hopefully we can work with them to address your concerns. Thank you, Isabel.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. And if you'll stay on, I think we've got a couple more. Looks like we've got one from Lisa Warren. 1960 in Townsend seems to have a wreck once a month. Tell me about it. I've been there. We're sending this over to our technical team right now. Brandon, if you want to follow up either here or offline, can we log 1960 in Townsend as one of those iffy locations?
Yes, I'm logging that location. I'm going to respond back to Lisa currently. That is a location that's maintained by our sister partner, our partner agency, TxDOT. And we'll work with TxDOT to report that information to that appropriate agency.
Fantastic. And I just want to let everyone know, Brandon and the rest of our Gradient team are watching these questions come in live. So we've also had reports of Long Point and Oak Tree Drive has active accidents on left turns. Also got a report from Charlotte Jackson. Out east on Uvalde, I've been there, north from Holly Park to Wallaceville Road, no sidewalks, no lights. And you're right, I've seen that actually happen quite a bit on the east end, especially as we go over those bayous. If there's any sidewalks, they're 3, maybe 4 feet wide, and you're right next to a car. So thank you for highlighting that one.
Isabel, can I say something about that? I want everybody to know that we are in the process of completing, and we'll have completed by the end of the year a survey of all unincorporated roads where we're tracking all the sidewalks, the condition of the sidewalks, and whether they have wheelchair ramps and the condition of the wheelchair ramps. So that's directly towards that question. Is previously we didn't have a comprehensive survey. That's actually being done right now in all of unincorporated Harris County. And after we do that, then we're going to prioritize the areas based on the data we find here and start in the areas that need them the most first. But we are in the process of doing that right now.
Awesome, thank you. We've got another one from Charlotte Jackson, appropriately, I think, bringing up our seniors, right? Or folks in our disability community who travel with wheelchairs. Or I remember once that I had to get my knee replaced. I was on crutches for a while. And so often in the disability community, we talk about people who, you know, at some point in your life, if you're lucky enough to get old, you'll probably be disabled in some way, shape, or form. And so it's not just about saying, well, there's only a couple people in wheelchairs, right? You know, they've always got special circumstances. All of us know someone and might ourselves be disabled at some point in life. So even if you're taking a kid in a stroller, it matters that you have a sidewalk that you can walk on, or a road that's appropriately far enough away from cars or other things that could be dangerous to you and your family. So thank you, Charlotte. You've had some really great responses today on helping us flag some of those areas. Giving it another second here again, you can use that Q&A feature here in Zoom, or if you think about something later, or maybe you're taking a lot of notes that you'd like to send to our technical community, go ahead to harrisvision0 you can email those to @eng for engineering.hctx.net, or you can visit our website at harrisvision0.net. .org. Net, org. It'll get you there. Apologies. Again, we'd love for you to be as detailed as possible. And if you have any upcoming Zoom meetings, or in this time of COVID, as you're walking around your neighborhood, if you are lucky enough to be able to bike, or even as you're driving around, maybe you have kids in the back, make a game of it. Have them check on the road. Hey, that place looks dangerous. There's a lot of people walking there. Or when I walk with my family, I like to think of the different kind of sidewalks and ramps going on too, and saying, hey, could this be safer? So I'll be doing my own kind of walk audits in my neighborhood, and I encourage you all to do the same. And I think we'll be talking about that in the future. So again, thank you all. We're wrapping up here. Don't see any more questions in the queue. We got one more. Let me queue that up here in a second. But while we're waiting for that last question to come in, a couple more reports here from Charlotte Jackson. Got it. San Jacinto College North, Uvalde. We're getting all of those. You're absolutely right. The East End needs a lot of work. And I think it points to there's parts of Houston that have been around for decades that have a beautiful history and culture, but it doesn't mean the roads have been updated as quickly as the community has been changing and evolving and growing. So it's an excellent point that we need to look at our historic communities as well to make sure that the infrastructure is keeping up with our modern standards for safety. So I think checking here again for one more. Got a couple of more reports, no sidewalks, no lights. So we'll be taking those as we're going along. Thank you all for coming. Please keep up with us at the harrisvision0.org website for our future ideas, for our future pledges, right? Share this with your communities if you can. Go ahead and put those reports, and above all, stay safe out there. We'll all be thinking about you, and we're all moving forward to keep Harris County a zero transportation and severe injury death community moving forward.